This is the Sergio Rodriguez Show.
Hello, everyone, to episode 4 of the Sergio Rodriguez Show, a show unlike any other. Today, fun, full of fun. NFL Week 4, MLB playoffs, second round, which started yesterday, 6 games in this COVID-type playoff. That's going to be obviously something we will discuss. We will also take a look at the games for next week, like we always do, go over the NFL lines, see where we're at. We were 2-2 with our picks this week, 12-8 on the year. Not bad. We got to get better. Joining us also today will be Ian Eagle from CBS Sports, one of the top broadcasters in the business. But before we get started, let's speak to you about our sponsors. Triangle Ink. Triangle Ink is the leading manufacturer in the screen printing industry, delivering the finest inks for over 35 years. Check them out at triangleink.com or call them at 1-800-524-1592. Vergona Cranes, located at 180 West Forest Avenue in Englewood, New Jersey. Verona Cranes operates 24 hours a day, providing crane rentals, trucking services, and warehousing for storage. Vergona Crane Services, the New York and New Jersey area. Call them at 201-945-7209 or on their website at vergonacrane.com. Paramus Driving School. Safety and professionalism begins with Paramus Driving School, serving the North Jersey area like no other. Contact them at paramusdrivingschool.com or call them at 201-986-8300. Week 4 in the NFL, and we begin with the Eagles and the 49ers. And look, I got to give the Eagles a lot of credit here. They're banged up like no other team, probably more than the 49ers, who last week struggled to suit up a roster. But yet, they figure out a way to go on the road against the defending NFC champs. Granted, playing without a full deck, but they found a way to get it done and win. And now look, Wentz was not great. He wasn't great. But he made the throw that he needed to make when it mattered. 193, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. Not a Carson Wentz type game when he's at his best, which he really hasn't been for the entire year. But again, the ability to make plays when they need to be made. For the 49ers, look, no excuses. I don't want to hear you weren't with you weren't with Garoppolo and you had Mullins playing, because last week you had him and he put up 300 yards against a Giants team that, okay, not as good as the Eagles, but the Eagles aren't exactly world beaters either. So you had them at home, and you just didn't get it done, and that's going to be an issue for them, because that league, or that division, I should say, with Seattle and the Rams, keeps on becoming a division that's going to put you in a situation where you're going to have to make the wild card essentially as the third place team in that league. And that could be an issue, for the 49ers moving forward, especially since Arizona is off to a 2-2 start. Also, Mullins threw an interception there that essentially put the game away. That was just terrible. I saw that play twice. I still don't know what the hell he was looking at. Kittle for the 49ers, get him back. He was a monster. 15 for 183 and a touchdown. And look, the Eagles now moving forward, they're at the Steelers. That's going to be a tough one. And then home to the 49ers. Home to the Ravens. That's going to be 2 tough games moving forward. But right now at 1-2-1 and sitting on top of the NFC least. Wow. Kansas City and New England in a game that was moved because of COVID to Monday night. And look, the Patriots did a good job on defense of keeping KC in check. They controlled a lot of the game by running the ball and not really putting their quarterbacks, because Cam Newton did not play, not putting Hoyer and then Stidham in a bad situation. But they could only do so much, not being able to muster up enough points to actually ever win this game. I don't think Kansas City was ever in danger of losing this game, but the Patriots defense held them to 19 points. And listen, at the end, the Honey Badgers interception return basically put the game away. The Pats, 4 turnovers, unlike the Patriots to do that. But again, playing without their quarterback, you knew that it was just a matter of time before that dam broke. The Patriots showed you a little bit of a weak spot with the Chiefs. I mean, they ran for close to 200 yards on the game, and they did a great job of blocking the point of attack. But, at the end of the day, you're not going to beat that team if you don't really put the ball in the end zone. Denver and the Jets on Thursday night was a game that was pretty entertaining and a tale of two halves. Realistically, Denver dominated the first half. The Jets got back into the game, and then again, like it is the Jets' way, they found a way to win. Only the Jets can lose a game where they get 3 turnovers, actually +3 in the turnover column, with a pick 6 interception return for a touchdown, and still lose the game. I would love to see when was the last time a team did that. Brett Rippon did everything he could to give the game away, throwing those 3 interceptions. And again, the Jets still could not muster up enough to win that game. They gave the Broncos 7 first downs on penalties. The Jets were just getting a lot of dumb personal fouls, a lot of dumb penalties throughout the entire game. Darnold is averaging under 200. He got banged up at some point during the game, came back. He's a tough kid, but those Jets right now just don't have enough to beat anybody. In a game that becomes really a blueprint for everything that's wrong in a season, the Dallas Cowboys at home end up losing and giving up 49 points to the Cleveland Browns. They end up losing 49-38. And look, let's be clear about one thing with these Cowboys. The defense is bad. We're not going to sit here and tell you that the defense is, you can't even sugarcoat it. Mike Nolan, who had been out of the game for essentially 6 years, comes back and it seems like the game's passed him by. And it wasn't like he had any top 10 defenses anyway or top 15 defenses anyway when he was actually running defenses back in the day. But fantasy Dak was back at it. 4 touchdowns, 502 yards, but it's when they're coming. The Cowboys' offense seems to take off 2 quarters every game. 14 points in the first quarter, and then when you look up, you're getting blown out, and now it's the fourth quarter, and you want to put up all these garbage stats up. You're also not helping the defense. If that game is 24-24, or it's a one-possession game, you play it differently, but they also have to play different. It seems like everybody's playing free and loose against you. The Cowboys are 35-15 when Zeke gets 15 carries in a game. He got 12 against the Browns. Why? Because the offense takes seemingly 2 quarters off every game. Every game. And then you got to play catch up. The Cowboys were outrushed 307-85. 85. A team with $100 million running back. 85. They also turned the ball over 3 times, which didn't help. I just want to know one thing. Where are the people that were blaming Jason Garrett for this? I see the same thing. Now, the only one good thing that I could say about this for Cleveland is that now they're 3-1. They go home to play the Colts. Winnable game because the Colts play defense, but they can't play offense. Dallas is going to have the Giants at home. I did see that. If you watch that game, you saw OBJ played a really good game for Cleveland. He ended up with 154 all Saquon yards and 3 touchdowns. He seems to have a good game every 3 years. It just comes every time against the Cowboys. The Bengals, 33-25 over the Jaguars. And look, hey, very entertaining game. Burrows got help from Mixon for the first time in a long time. I mean, Mixon, 3 touchdowns, 151 yards. Did a phenomenal job on the ground. About time, because it seemed like Burrows was working by himself. Joe Burrow was 25 for 36, 300 yards and a touchdown. Tyler Boyd, another good game, 7 catches for 90 yards. DJ Chark for the Jaguars had a good game. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you fantasy lovers a good pickup out there for fantasy. A guy that's in the mix because he gets a lot of touches. He also goes in the backfield a lot for the Jaguars is the rookie, the kid, Laviska Shenault, kid from Colorado, 5 catches for 86 yards, but he also touches the ball coming out the backfield. Gardner Minshew threw for 350 plus 2 touchdowns. You know, it was a fun game, one of those games that was under the radar, and what it was a bad football week if you really think about it. Other than the Tampa Bay Chargers game, which we'll get to, a lot of bad football played this weekend and a lot of weird matchups. The Saints beat the Lions 35-29 in a game that I'll tell you is not as close as the score indicates. Detroit goes up 14-0 and then gives up 35 unanswered points. Detroit scored 2 window dressing touchdowns at the end. But realistically, they only had the ball 23 minutes the entire game. You can't beat the Saints like that. You just can't. They're not the Saints from 2 years ago offensively, but they're still going to hang up points on you if you give them the ball for 35 plus minutes. But I'll tell you, for a game with 64 points, there weren't many huge stats. Stafford threw for 206 and 3 TDs. He did have an interception. Breeze didn't even get to 250 yards. He threw a couple of touchdown passes. Kamara had 119 all Saquon yards. And the Saints now get 2 home games. They get the Chargers and the Panthers. So they should be pretty good, you know, moving forward. Seattle 31-23 over Miami. Miami hung around. You know, Miami hung around, but Russell Wilson at 17-15 goes 75 yards in under 3 minutes, puts the game away. And look, Russell Wilson, what can you say about this guy? 360, 2 TDs. Carson with 2 rushing touchdowns. Fitzpatrick, and we've been saying this now for 3 weeks in a row. That team goes as Fitzpatrick goes, especially from an energy standpoint. But you know, he really didn't throw for any touchdowns, threw 2 interceptions, did throw for 315 yards, but realistically, not a sharp game. It might be time to go to the number 1 pick now moving forward. I mean, I think you just got to figure out if he can play or not. Tua, it might be Tua time. It might be Tua time. Seattle's 4-0 now. They have the Vikings at Arizona and then the 49ers, which could be a game that puts a nail in the coffin in the 49ers if they lose that game in terms of the division. Tampa, 38-31. And the interesting thing about this game is, fortunately for us, because we're going to have Iron Eagle on later, is I believe he was on this game. You know, I watched the game in mute because I was watching multiple games, trying to do some studying for the show and trying to see what was going on in these games. I try to watch them, but I really didn't even think about it. But I think he did have this game. But this game came down to Chargers up 24-7. Brady had played a pedestrian game to this point. He had thrown a pick 6, 24-7. The Chargers have the ball with their back at their own goal line. For reasons known to them, they decide to run the ball when they could have probably just taken 3 knees and gotten to the half, They fumble the ball 3 plays later. Brady to Evans. They're back in it 24-14 at the half. And Tampa Bay outscores them 24-7 in the second half. Herbert 20 for 25 for 290 and 3 TDs and a touchdown. Brady, after a slow start, throws for the 5 TDs. 4 of them after they were trailing. And, Mike Evans did contribute 7 for 122 and a TD. Tampa goes to Chicago in a short week before they play the Packers. Speaking of the Packers beat the Falcons 30-16. And, that game showed a lot about the Packers. The Packers right now are the class of the NFC, without a doubt. Rodgers might have taken the MVP lead from Russell Wilson. Another 4 touchdown performance, 0 interception. He's now averaging 300 per every game. 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions on the year, completing over 70% of his passes. $40 million quarterback like Watson and Prescott, you have to watch what Rodgers does. He's 4-0. Yesterday, he didn't have Devontae Adams. He didn't have Lazard playing. He was throwing touchdown passes to Robert Tonyan, a tight end. Jamal Williams, his running back. Valdez-Scantling. Guys that you could not pick out of a lineup. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's what $40 million quarterbacks do. And if you're going to pay a quarterback $40 million, Prescott, Watson, who's already getting it, Prescott, who wants it, that's what you do. Julio Jones hurt again. Calvin Ridley's become the number 1 receiver there, but even Ridley had 0 catches. 0 catches. The Falcons are now 0-4. Green Bay has the bye, and then the Bucs, the Texans, the Vikings, and the 49ers. So it gets a little harder for the Packers here, but right now they look like the class of the NFC. The Ravens, in basically what amounted to a nonchalant, just get business done win. The Ravens go into Washington, get the job done. Lamar Jackson with 246 all Saquon yards, right? He's the only quarterback where you have to count the Saquon yards, those all-purpose yards, because he only threw for 193, but yet people want to tell me that he's some great quarterback. Haskins, no turnovers, threw for 314. No touchdowns, really didn't make much of a difference. McLaurin, the fine sophomore, yeah, you call him a sophomore, his second year. Terry McLaurin, 10 catches for 118 yards. We have to have Lake Lewis on pretty soon. He covers the Washington, I said the Redskins, I think, again, team formerly known as the Redskins, the Washington football team. He covers the Washington football team for the Sports Journey Network down in D.C. We have to have them on. The Ravens are home to the Bengals. That shouldn't be a problem. And then they're at the Eagles before the Steelers. So that's going to be interesting for the Ravens before they, those 2 games they should be later. But that Steelers game, I pointed it out last week. That could be for the number 1 seed in the AFC. Panthers 31-21 over the Cardinals. Bridgewater was solid, 2 TDs and an INT, scored 1 on the ground. He had about 270, 280 passing. Kyler Murray, again, 211 all Saquon yards. He only really threw for 133, did throw for 3 TDs, no INTs. The Panthers, realistically, are playing good football right now. I've been impressed with how well they've played. The time of possession in this game, 37-22 in favor of Carolina, which is the way to beat the Cardinals. The time of possession was 37-22 in favor of Carolina. And that's the way to beat the Cardinals, because if they don't have the ball, they're really not going to do anything offensively. The thing with Arizona is they don't get chunk plays. See, Kansas City can have the ball for 22, 23, 24 minutes and still hang a 35 spot. Arizona's not getting chunk plays. They really only had, I think, 2 plays over 20 or 25 yards. That's an issue for that offense if they're not going to have the ball. Arizona is at the Jets and at the Cowboys. Carolina is going to the Falcons, who are 0-4 now, and then home to the Bears. Minnesota 31-23 over Houston. Cousins only threw the ball 22 times. That's the recipe, my friends. That's the recipe for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, 27 for 130 and 2 touches. But the recipe is to keep the ball out of Cousins' hands. Minnesota had 2 receivers over 100 yards. Thielen went over 100 with about 7 or 8 catches, which is very, very good for them. If they're going to get that type of play from their receivers, the way Cook is running the ball, they should win some games. I mean, it's just going to be, but the recipe is to not get over 25 throws. You go over 25 throws with Cousins, you're going to be in trouble. Watson did throw for 302 touchdowns, no interceptions. But again, putting up Prescott-like numbers. And you know what I mean? Just taking time off, second half, doing something. In the first half, 6 points. You come back, you play better, but your team is trailing. They're hollow stats. Hollow stats. Time of possession, also lopsided in this game, 37-23 in favor of Minnesota. Why? Houston only had 96 yards rushing. Hard to keep the chains moving. After the game, Houston fires Bill O'Brien. And listen, now they have no coach, no GM, no first round or second round picks in 2021, and really no explosive young players. Houston's in trouble with a $39 million quarterback who's not a difference maker. The Rams beat the Giants 17-9 in a game that the Rams basically sleptwalk through. Goff went for 201 TD, nothing special. The game was 10-9 until Goff found Cooper Kupp for a big 55-yard play with about 7 minutes to go. But the Rams struggled to run the ball all game. They barely got to 60 yards. And, they just couldn't muster up any significant type of offense. But again, not hard to beat the Giants when they've scored 3 touchdowns the whole year. Danny Penny's 190, an interception, no TD, sacked 5 times. The Giants now travel to Dallas, home against Washington, and at the Eagles. So 3 division games for them. The Rams at 3-1 go to Washington before playing the 49ers. The Colts 19-11 over the Bears in a game where, look, the Bears, if they could have done anything on offense, they would have won this game. Their defense played great. The thing that gets me is Nick Foles was terrible. And if they had that type of performance with Mitch Trubisky, you need a congressional hearing. But Nick Foles plays, they don't do anything. They scored a touchdown with 2 minutes left in the game, which was inconsequential. 3 points the whole game, and nobody cares. Everybody moves on. Incredible. The culture pretty good, but the story here is the lack of offense from the Bears. Regardless of how you really think about it, the lack of offense is really the issue. The Bears now get Tampa on a short week on Thursday in a game that, again, because Tampa's coming to you on a short week, if you can muster up some offense, you might be able to do a little damage. The Bills beat the Raiders 30-23. And look, the Bills are good. Allen threw for 288 and 2 touchdowns. The Raiders stopped the Bills' run game, held them to 62 yards, but they struggled to score. They just couldn't move the ball themselves. They had a couple of fumbles, a big one by Waller at 23-16, driving at the Buffalo 36, about to take the lead or tie the game, I should say. Waller, a bad fumble. Carr, solid this year. Another solid game. 3-11 with 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. 8 touchdowns and 0 interceptions on the year. Not bad. The Raiders are at the Chiefs next. Buffalo is at Tennessee, if I'm not mistaken, and then home to the Chiefs on a Thursday night. Lucimer Auto Body, located at 27 Austin Street in Newark, provides top-of-the-line service to make your collision experience as smooth as possible. Go to lucimer.com or call them at 973-824-0113. JJ Farber and Lotman, providers of wholesale insurance at competitive rates for small and medium businesses. Go to jjfl.com or get an instant quote by calling 844-502-8923. M&J Luxury Inc. For the most unique experience in the medical transportation business, call M&J, located in New York City with over 1,000 cars at your disposal. Call them at 718-278-2222 or 914-484-7264. The Major League Baseball playoffs got started yesterday, or Monday, I should say. And the interesting thing is that it's actually had a little bit more juice with this added round of playoffs. I don't think in a regular non-COVID world I would like it, but it's actually playing out pretty well. You got enough Cinderellas with the Marlins and the Padres, right? You got different teams with Oakland being in there also. And so it's playing well. The Yankees got off to a monster game. They're hitting quality pitching, which is something that they've struggled with the last couple of years in the playoffs. Stanton with a big grand slam to break that game open in the ninth inning, which helped them not have to use Chapman, which becomes more important than usual because you're playing 5 days in a row. So if you can avoid using your pen, it becomes gold. Game 2 on Tuesday, the Yankees are going with Davy Garcia, the rookie, against Glasnow for Tampa Bay. The Braves and the Marlins got started on Tuesday, and Atlanta won game 1. The Marlins up 4-1, blow the lead, end up losing 9-5. Atlanta's just got too much offense for these guys. The Astros, as we're filming now, the Astros were up 5-2 when I last checked. They're up 5-2 right now in the bottom of the ninth with one out. And it looks like they're going to go up 2-0. That series essentially over. Major League Baseball has to be hating this because not only were the Astros under 500 during the shortened season, but with the whole cheating scandal that went on, if these guys go on again to win, I think Major League Baseball is going to really, really hate it. The Dodgers and the Padres is that last series. And look, the story of that series is going to be very simple. The Padres just don't have enough pitching to contend with the Dodgers. And at the end of the day, that series is going to come down to the pitching on the Dodgers' end. Fairfield Physical Therapy, located in the Fairfield Commons Suite G106, and owned and operated by Justin Solotov, who has 20 years of experience in the field of orthopedic physical therapy. Call Justin at 973-276-1313 and stop living with pain and discomfort. Epic Car Service. Epic Car Service is recognized as the #1 car service in New York City by medical transportation standards. Located in the Bronx, New York, Epic Car Service will make your commute a safe and comfortable experience. Call Epic at 718-401-3742 or at 844-866-6274. The NFL football games for week 5, and that's going to be hopefully better than the games from week 4 because week 4 was just terrible. But the buys begin. So for you fantasy folks, buys begin. 2 teams with buys this week, Detroit and Green Bay. Sponsoring the Sergio Rodriguez gambling portion of this show is Stan Sports. Stan Sports, one of the oldest and most recognized sporting goods stores in New Jersey, located on Washington Street in Hoboken and Saddlebrook. Stan's has been recognized as a historical institution. Call Stan's at 201-773-6891 or on their website at stansportsctr.com. Now, we normally end with the gambling portion of the show, but because we're going to have Iron Eagle, we're going to do this now and then go to Iron. Let's go to Chicago, where Tampa is a 5-point favorite in Chicago on a short week. Traditionally, since they started these Thursday night games, home teams have done really well in these matchups. I just don't know how Chicago's going to muster up any offense with Nick Foles. I'm surprised at the line. I probably would have made it a little higher. Almost seems like Vegas is begging you to take Tampa. Atlanta is a 2.5-point favorite versus Carolina. Atlanta winless and a favorite. Go with Atlanta. If I had to make my pick now, I'm betting Atlanta right now. Kansas City's a 13-point favorite at home versus Las Vegas. The Raiders coming off a game they should have won. Kansas City coming off a game against the Patriots that they were inconsistent, to say the least, offensively. But they played a good defense in New England. It is what it is. 13 points is a lot in a divisional game. Those 13 points might look good in the Las Vegas side. New England's going to be, is an 8.5-point favorite against Denver. New England might roll in this game. I know Denver's going to have 10 days to prepare because they played on Thursday, but that line looks a little funny to me. The Rams are an 8-point favorite on the road against Washington. Keep an eye on that line. That line might go down to like 7 by the time that game kicks off. Houston's at home, a 6-point favorite against Jacksonville. Firing the coach, Romeo Crennel takes over there in the interim. And their favorite, another one of those games where you might want to look and bet Houston. Buffalo's a 1-point favorite on the road at Tennessee. Now, we don't know if that game's going to go off yet. Tennessee's game last week got canceled because of that COVID situation. Their game with Pittsburgh got canceled. So, right now it's scheduled for a 1 o'clock kickoff. If it does go off, Buffalo, like I said, is a 1-point favorite. I really like Tennessee. Arizona's a 7-point favorite at the Jets. I don't know if Arizona's good enough to give anybody 7 points anywhere, let alone on the road. Pittsburgh's a 7-point favorite at home against Philadelphia. I just can't see the Eagles mustering up 2 weekends in a row of the type of football that they put up and they played, as banged up as they are. I just can't see it. Baltimore's a 2-touchdown favorite or 13-point favorite against Cincinnati. Another divisional game. These games tend to be close. Be careful if you're going to lay all those points. The 49ers are a 3.5-point favorite at home against Miami. Think about this. They were a bigger favorite against the Eagles than against the Dolphins. Weird line. The Cowboys are a 9.5-point favorite at home against the Giants. Expect the Cowboys to roll. The Giants will score this game because the Cowboys allow everyone to score. But I just don't know if the Giants can score enough to keep it under 10. I could see the Cowboys hanging up a 35 spot and winning the game 35-21. Cowboys should cover. Indianapolis is a 2-point favorite in Cleveland. I love Cleveland in this game. Love them. Seattle's a 7-point favorite at home on the Sunday night game against Minnesota. Another weird line there. I mean, the way Minnesota runs the ball, if they can figure out a way to move the chains and limit the amount of throws by Cousins, I like Minnesota with the points. Not outright, just with the points. And then the Monday night game, New Orleans is a 7.5-point favorite against the Chargers in a game where, hey, let's be honest, the Chargers have been playing inconsistent football by quarters. They had the game against Arizona a couple of weeks ago that they lost because they turned the ball over 4 times. Justin Herbert's been fine, but now you're going to go on the road to play a New Orleans team that scores a lot at home. I still think that's a lot of points. the Chargers might be the play in that game. Tune in to our Instagram at thesergiorodriguezshow.com where we post our picks every Thursday when there's a Thursday game or on Fridays for you to see. And joining us right now from CBS Sports, the great broadcaster, Ian Eagle. My friend, how are you?
Hey, Sergio. Good to talk to you, man.
Ian, from the bottom of my heart, man. Look, you know what's funny? Like, when people listen to you all the time, do these games, they hear that, right? It's just a voice that resonates with the game. But they don't realize what a great human you are, man. You always been there for me whenever I needed something, and I appreciate you coming on. It means a lot. I know you had a lot of things going on, and you still took 15 minutes for me. I appreciate it.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. We go back a long way, and it's great to hear your voice. Great to be on with you.
Let's start. Correct me if I'm wrong. You had that Chargers Tampa game this week, right?
I did. I saw Tom Brady. I mean, I saw him on Zoom. We don't get to meet with the players anymore like we used to. So everything is done via Zoom, our production meetings with the teams, the meetings that we would have with our own crew. But we do get the action, which is great. What I do miss is the interaction. That's something that you can't replace.
All right. Well, let me take me back to 24/7. They have the ball. Chargers have the ball coming out of the end zone. What are they thinking in that situation?
Yeah, it was one of those spots where I thought to myself, okay, at the very least, if they go 3 and out here, it's 24/7 going into the break because there's not much time on the clock. They had really clicked on offense in that first half, spreading it around. Herbert has that it factor. He does. He hasn't won an NFL game yet, but the way he carries himself, the way that his teammates respond to him, he's big, he's strong, he's got the legit arm, he's got poise. I just thought to myself, they've figured some things out here with Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers were starting to struggle on offense based on the fact that the Chargers had made some adjustments. Gus Bradley did an excellent job of deploying his defensive backs and taking the middle of the field out of play. And then the fumble by L.A. changed the game, completely changed the game. Sometimes in certain games, Sergio, you can look back and you can pinpoint the one play, and that was the one that just turned the tide.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he finds Mike Evans. Instead of being down 24/7, now it's 24-14, and he comes out and throws, 3 more TDs in the second half. And look, you mentioned Justin Herbert. That throw that he made, which essentially was a dime, 60 yards, shows you the type of talent this kid has.
Yeah, 6th overall pick. It's funny how reputations can often change the narrative. And for whatever reason, this happens sometimes when guys are thinking about going to the NFL draft or thinking about going into the NBA draft, but they're known entities and they've been winners at the collegiate level. But for whatever reason, the MO had been, I don't know if he's a dynamic leader. I'm not sure if he could galvanize a team. And whoever said that, whoever put that out there, and it was probably a scout or somebody, potentially an agent from a competing agency that was trying to muddy the waters, that got some legs for some reason. But what did the Chargers do? They did their due diligence on him. That's what you have to do. That's why you have to be thorough in these drafts, because you're investing so much money. You're investing so much time, and you really are handing the keys over to a young kid. And that's what he is. We had him on our Zoom meeting, and I was just marveling at the fact that he's younger than my son, and my son's young. And I'm thinking to myself, this guy has the responsibility and the weight of an organization in the second largest media market in the country on his shoulders, but he doesn't show it. And what I also learned was whoever was tossing those things out early in the draft process was wrong. Everybody you talk to has been blown away by his abilities, not just on the field, but off the field, the way he's connected with the guys. I think he's the real deal. I think we're going to be talking about him in very high plaudit terms as the years go by, and I think the Chargers got themselves a good one.
Now, you mentioned your son, man. Congrats to him. He's with the Clippers now, I heard.
Yeah. He actually was just in Paris working the French Open. That's a gig I normally have done the last 14 years, but based on all the scheduling and the fact that it wasn't held in May and June, it was held during football season. I couldn't head over there, and they ended up bringing him on. He had done a bunch of tournaments for them in LA. He's doing radio with the Clippers. It's been cool, Sergio, to watch him and to listen to him. And really the best part of it all is he's an A-plus human being. Forget about the broadcasting stuff. He's very talented, but he's a really good person. And as we all know, that's going to carry him a lot farther than any abilities he may have on a microphone.
Hey, listen, we'll get him on soon, but where are you at next week?
Next week, Las Vegas at Kansas City. Raiders and Chiefs, old school rivalry. Excited always to see Patrick Mahomes in person. Saw him on that Monday night game. I worked the radio side for Kansas City, Baltimore, and he was just marvelous in that one. I think New England figured a few things out defensively, and now you're going to see copycats around trying to change the way to defend the Chiefs. Maybe not blitz as often. Baltimore, they didn't have a whole lot of success with that. New England backed off. Bill Belichick used 6 defensive backs for the majority of the game, and it was not your typical Chiefs performance on Monday night. So let's see what the Raiders have up their sleeve. They have not been very good defensively. They've not gotten to the quarterback. They have not turned teams over. So this could be one of those mismatches where the Chiefs just get it rolling, or maybe the Raiders find their footing on defense. And I think it's an improved Las Vegas team. I just don't know in the grand landscape where they fit in the AFC. They got to start winning these games. That was a big game against Buffalo.
I thought they had him. I thought they had him.
I did too. They just couldn't get it done. Josh Allen has been terrific. You look at the Buffalo roster, Sergio, they're really good. It's no longer just a nice story. Sean McDermott changed the culture there, went in with a certain philosophy, and we saw some instant results, then a little dip when they drafted Allen and had to work through the growing pains. They're legitimately good. You know, they might not be in that Kansas City, Baltimore, Pittsburgh class, but they're on that next tier in the AFC.
They have a top three coaching staff in the league, in my opinion.
Yep.
Secondly, that secondary is phenomenal.
Agreed.
They play hard and they hit, and they're not afraid to stick their nose in there. And I thought they were going to lose to the Raiders. In fact, listen, at 23-16, when Waller fumbled that ball, that essentially was the game. They were driving to take the lead.
They were. Yeah, their issues really have been more on the defensive side of the ball, and they got to get healthy on offense. That's part of the problem right now. Ruggs hasn't been in there. They really thought that they would be explosive on offense. Waller was taken out of his game the previous week. He's a really gifted tight end. And I think Derek Carr is frustrated, very frustrated. He does everything right. He practices well. He gets his guys lined up well. He's got legit arm ability. He's a much better athlete than people may give him credit for. But they just have not been able to piece it together. At some point, you're still waiting for that breakthrough stretch from them where they win 5 out of 6 or 6 out of 8 and really make a statement in the AFC.
Take me around the league here. Anybody that has jumped out at you that maybe people would not really, some things that pop up on tape, you watch so much.
Sure.
Just anything, a player, a team, a side of the offense, a side of the defense.
Yeah, I would say they're not a surprise in that they're winning. They are a surprise at the level that they're winning. I think the Green Bay Packers are better than I anticipated. They've dealt with injuries. It doesn't matter. The second year with the LaFleur Aaron Rodgers marriage is now reaping the benefits. That first year there was a little bit of the tentative period of feeling each other out and sensing what the other one wants in the offense. And now it's really clicking. Rodgers is playing at a ridiculously high level. Yeah, I don't know if the draft day quarterback love was motivation. I don't think so at this stage of Aaron Rodgers' career. But, Sergio, you've been around a lot of great athletes in your life. You never know what creates that, what triggers that. And maybe even subconsciously for Aaron Rodgers, it was enough to push him to another level. He has been incredible. Him and Russell Wilson, to me, have been top two in the quarter mark of the MVP talk. Josh Allen's name has popped up as well. I think it's Rodgers right now. It's just everything he's touched through the first 4 weeks of the season has been gold. And while I can't say I'm shocked that the Packers are winning, I'm shocked at how good they are,
I agree.
Even though they've dealt with a string of injuries.
He played with nobody yesterday, and it didn't even matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Honestly, it does not matter right now for Rodgers. He's making everybody better. He's elevating everybody's game on that offense. I think the Packers' defense is better, and I think they're a factor. I believe that. Look, the Buccaneers, they're going to be a storyline throughout the season because of Brady. You mentioned it, that first half, there were moments where you started questioning, like, is this it? And they turned it on when necessary. They're very young in the secondary. That would be my only concern moving forward. In big, big moments, can you really trust that back end when you need them to get it done? That's probably going to be the one question that keeps popping up. The loss of O.J. Howard, I think that's a fairly big hit. I don't know what Gronk has left in his legs. They're moving him along slowly. But, boy, it's going to be fun to find out. That's the one thing I do know, just being down there. They're Buccaneer crazy down there. They want to see this team not just be relevant, which they finally are, but maybe even make a go of winning a championship. Sergio, after all these years, no team in the NFL in history has ever played a Super Bowl as the host team in the home city. It just never happened. And Tampa will be the venue this year for the Super Bowl, whenever that is. It may not be the date that it's currently scheduled for. Who knows how it's going to play out based on COVID and whether or not they're going to have to push the schedule. But that would be a tremendous storyline if the Buccaneers could really go on that kind of run.
I'll tell you who's not going to play in the Super Bowl is my Cowboys. I'll tell you what, man. If they really are going to someday give Dak Prescott $40 million, I might disown that franchise. Look, he is a good football player. But the problem with the Cowboys, having Prescott, I know that you cover a lot of the AFC, so I don't know how much you're seeing the Cowboys, but you can't play football and take 2 quarters off and be down 30 points and then come back and put these ridiculous fantasy football stats up and try to fool someone who's watching the games. See, the people that just wake up and look at the stats think that the problem is just the defense. I see the problem as the offense is not helping at all for 3 quarters of the game.
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Sergio? Things have changed so much in the viewing experience of football fans. Years ago, I would go about my business, do my game, fly home, get to bed, whatever time on Sunday night, wake up Monday, talk to people, talk to my son who was in high school at the time, and I'd ask him, hey, who'd you watch? What were you watching yesterday, football Sunday? He said, I watched the Red Zone all day. I go, what? Why? There were games? You had full games on. He goes, no, you don't understand. It's the best. I thought, the best? What? No.
I can't do that.
One of the years, Sergio, I ended up doing a Saturday night primetime game on CBS. It was Harbaugh's last year in San Francisco. They were playing the then San Diego Chargers. And I take a red eye home from San Francisco. I land at 7 a.m. I get in the car, head back home, half an hour from Newark Airport. I grab 2 more hours of sleep, wake up around 11 o'clock, and it's the first Sunday that I'm home in my house, in my living room, in 20 years. And my son's a senior in high school at the time. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do what you do. He said, okay, we're going to watch Red Zone. I go, okay, we're going to watch Red Zone. I sit down, and I'm 5 minutes in, and I could see why people are addicted. The stimuli bouncing around, boom, 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 fantasy football, bang, from this game to this game to this game. And I understood it. It doesn't mean that I agree with it.
I can't get into a rhythm. I have it. I've had DirecTV since the day it came out. My son, who's a sophomore at Verona High School, football player, loves it.
Yep.
Me, I can't do it. Can't do it.
I understand. And why I'm bringing it up, it plays to your point. There are so many fans now, more often the younger variety, that don't watch a full football game. They just see snippets. So if you're a red zone guy and you're seeing Prescott making these dynamic throws and athletic plays just on scoring drives, but not seeing the mistakes along the way or the series of downs where he didn't read it correctly or he didn't check down when he should have or he forced the ball in, you're not seeing the whole game. Or if you're just going off your iPad or your phone and looking at the fantasy football stats, you're going to walk away saying, oh, my, you got to pay this guy.
Phenomenal.
You're actually watching the games and you're seeing the flaws because you're watching the entire game. You have context when these things are taking place. As he racket up these numbers when they're down 14 and trying to rally back but coming up just short. That seems to be the trend with the Cowboys. It's a lot of, hey, we'll keep it interesting. We'll keep it exciting. We'll somehow get you right to the finish, but we won't get over the hump. And that's happened time and time again. There's a reason why they did not commit to him long term. They have reservations, and they see him every day. He lives in that facility. If there's anybody that knows Dak Prescott, it's going to be the Cowboys decision makers and talent evaluators and coaches. So it doesn't take too much to put 2 and 2 together. There's a reason why he doesn't have that deal.
Before I let you go, I have 2 questions because I could not keep you on here and not ask you this. Speak to me about the Nets. You're also the voice of the Nets. How is that going to work with Kyrie and Durant? You got 2 alpha males, and the rest of the squad obviously is not going to be in place. Where do you see the Nets next year when we start?
You know, Sergio, these 2 guys have been thinking about this, talking about this, planning this for a number of years. This didn't happen by chance. So they're finally going to get their chance to do it together on the floor, healthy. Durant, Irving, Steve Nash, the head coach. I think Nash is the perfect type of personality to handle all this. He's an elite level communicator, and his basketball mind, as we saw as a player, is all about creativity, but also instinctual. And he's a deep thinker. And that's what Kevin Durant is. That's what Kyrie Irving is. I know there's been a faction of people that look at it and say, I don't know if it can work. I don't know if these 2 guys can make it mesh together. I think both are going to be on a mission. And their reasons for that individually might be a little different, but I think collectively they have the same goal. And they've watched these playoffs in the bubble. They have an understanding of what else is out there. I just believe it's going to be really exciting, and I personally think it's going to work. Is it going to be perfect? Is it going to be smooth every step of the way? No. Could there be a little bit of drama here and there? Maybe. I mean, that's the NBA for you. But on the court, there's a chance that this thing.
Now, Ian, are you still there?
Yep.
Okay. The last question I got to ask you is my favorite thing, college hoops. Are we going to get this season off? And is St. John's going to beat Syracuse if we do happen to play?
You had to go there, right? You had to go there. Yeah, I think they are going to play a form of the season. I don't know if it's going to be the full schedule that we're so accustomed to. It might be dominated by conference games. There might be games that you can drive to and not necessarily long trips for road games. But I do think they're going to play in some way, shape, or form. I do think there's going to be an NCAA tournament. If they have to bubble that thing, they will. They're more prepared than they were, as we know, last March when everything hit. It was just poor timing for the NCAA. I think they'll be ready to handle it this time around. St. John's, it's going to be different. Mike Anderson now is going to get a chance to get his guys in there. And I'm curious to see what the next 2 to 3 years looks like. His style of play, his type of player, and bringing some of that mentality that he had at Arkansas to New York. And it's hard-nosed and it's in your face, but it's hard
to prepare for, especially in a tournament setting. And we saw it almost in the Big East tournament. They were beating Creighton at the half. Just hard to prepare from one day to another to play that style.
Yeah, it's bedlam. I mean, that's what he's looking to do. He's looking to create havoc. And it's been effective. It's been effective at different stops along the way for him, whether it was at Missouri prior, whether it was UAB. He's been a winning coach, and I think he'll be a winning coach in New York. Syracuse, they have not gotten the same level of recruits that they were accustomed to getting in previous iterations. The recruiting has stepped up recently, but you just don't know. You gotta put it all together for a Syracuse team that can play the zone, can play the way that Jim Boeheim wants to play. He just has not really had the pieces in recent years to compete at the highest of levels. But anytime you count that guy out, he figures out a way. He is really a tremendous basketball mind. I've grown to respect him even more and more as the years have gone by, that he sticks to his guns. And I think he has one more run in him. I do. Before whatever he ends up doing in the next chapter of his life, I think he's going to have one more run in him.
Ian, man, I can't thank you enough. And when college basketball really gets going, I definitely want to have you on again. But from the bottom of my heart, like I said, I know you moved a lot of things around to be with me today, and I appreciate it, my friend.
You got it, Sergio. A pleasure, and we'll do it again down the road, okay?
Take care. That was Ian Eagle, ladies and gentlemen. And thank you for listening to the Sergio Rodriguez Show. Next week, week 5 of the NFL. See you then.